What is going on, YouTube? It is Primitive here, and today I'm going to be bringing you another BT7 deck list profile. Today I'm going to be bringing you the red-green hybrid list that I've been playing a bunch the past few days. I was able to win a local with it, which you just saw the finals I posted earlier today. I obviously got the inspiration for this deck from Huang Zero's video, but as testing the list, I found it to be pretty unoptimized and not having the best text for the current metagame, so I made a bunch of changes myself, test some things, made some changes, and I ended up with this list, which I'm very happy with, and a deck that I'm going to be playing a bunch of going forward. One of the tournaments that I played in did have a side deck ruling for it too, so I did have a side deck built for the event, and so I'm going to go ahead and share with you the side deck that I used after we get through the main deck as well. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check that out after we get through the main list, but with that being said, let's get on into it. So starting off, we are going to be having the Digitama. We're going to have 4 Kapurimon and 1 Demi-Meramon. Now, the Kapurimon is much better in this list because it's going to be a unconditional plus 1k DP, as to where this one you're going to have to attack face, which did come up in the finals. As you saw, there was a time where I thought I had the Kapuri putting my Guilmon at 3k, but it was actually at 2k because I was attacking into a Digimon. And so this is a little bit better, but for the most part, they're very much the same because majority of the time when you tack in with your red rookies, they are going to be swinging face, so no matter what, you're going to be getting that plus 1k DP. And I like playing these at 5 eggs because I am playing the Mimi Tamer, and so I'm going to be able to promote a bunch more, and plus I just want to be able to Digivolve and promote as frequently as possible with my red rookies. So I'm going to be trying to get through these as much as possible so that way I can get that extra aggression in. So I want that 5th egg so that way whenever I do get through the first 4 eggs, I do have that 5th one. That one extra free Digivolve promote, get that extra rookie out for free essentially. So I do like it as 5. This is one of the few lists where I think playing 5 eggs is just objectively correct, as some of the other hybrid lists, playing 4 might be correct, but playing 5 might be correct for some lists. It's really up in the air, but I think that with this specific list, because of how aggressive it is, 5 is just objectively the best. Now, getting on into the red rookies, we are going to be starting off with the 4 Gaussmon, and in my opinion, this is the main reason to run the red package. The Atomic Inferno is a very good card, but it's mostly a win more card. It's really only super impactful when you get it out of security. It is a very good card, but I think the Gaussmon is going to be the main reason why you want to read the red package. Green has so much aggression already to where you don't necessarily need the Atomic Inferno to be aggressive, but this gives you a whole nother level of defensive gameplay versus the current metagame where hybrids are everywhere. This card is going to be impactful versus almost every single matchup, and so I think this card really carries the red package. And so with that being said, I play it at 4 because I want to see this as much as possible. The more of this you get out, the more they're going to stack up on top of each other because they give all other Gaussmon the plus 3k DP. So if you get a couple of these out, you can get some 5k rookies, 8k rookies on top of each other. Just out there, you can be able to swing over your opponent's champions and stuff like that. So Gaussmon is just absolutely insane. I think this is the best card in the red package, and I love playing the red base because I have access to this effect. The Gaussmon is just so good alongside the other cards that have this effect, Syakomon, Cutemon, and so I want to be able to fit these in, and just playing it at 4 because it is just absolutely insane in this metagame. Then we were playing 3 of the promo Guilmon. I was playing 2 Guilmon and 1 of the Flamemon here, so that way I could search out my Rhino Kabuterimons, but I found this to be much better. You can just get a security check, get a draw, it's going to be consistent, you don't have to put anything to the bottom, as to where here you threaten to put some really good cards to the bottom of your deck, such as the Ancient Beetlemon, which happened so many times that I just wanted to take this card out because I was tired of putting my Ancient Beetlemon to the bottom. This is really only helpful to search the Rhino Kabuterimon, in my opinion, or search out Beetlemon so that you can then search out Rhino Kabuterimon, and I just found it not super great. I am playing 1 red Tamer, which we will talk about later, which made it so sometimes I could double hit off of this, but for the most part, it was on play. Sometimes add a hybrid to your hand and then put 2 cards to the bottom, or just put 3 cards to the bottom, and it just never felt good because you really need to get your Ancient Beetlemon as fast as possible, and if you don't have it in hand and you put 1 to the bottom, you're going to feel really bad about it. So I just decided to cut this out, play the 3 Guilmon so that way I just have more consistent draw cards. You're going to get a card to your hand regardless between the 2, but this way you don't have to bottom deck stuff. It does have the downside of not being able to search the Rhino Kabuterimon exactly when you need it, but I found the Guilmon just to be a lot better. I am considering putting a 4th Guilmon in this list and just playing a 4/4. But I also might consider just playing the 1 Flamemon and testing it with the 3 Guilmon. I'm not sure. It's going to have to take testing, but this is the rookie lineup I'm with right now, and I think it's just really effective. The Gaussmons are just super insane, and the Guilmon has such good value, especially when paired with the Kapurimon, because you can swing over other 2k rookies, get the draw, it still lives, or if you swing in security and hit a 2k rookie, it still lives because of the 1k. It's very good, and I really like this lineup. Then to finish off the rookies, we are going to be having the 4 Bokomon, of course. This card is super crucial in this list because you need to be able to search out your Ancient Beetlemon as well as your Rhino Kabuterimon because you just don't run as many of them as you do as your champion hybrids. So you want to be able to search these out, and then it has the cool interaction where JP is going to let you Digivolve for 1, and then you can gain 2 here, so you can Digivolve and gain a memory essentially with the Bokomon. And so this card just works really well. It's really glued to the deck. Some decks are playing 4 of these, some of them are playing less in other hybrid lists, but I think in this particular list you need to be running the 4 just because it's kind of like how Jessmon, you really need to be finding your Jessmon and your Savior, and so you run the Hookmons for the highest consistency of finding them. The Bokomon is essentially the same. This is like your Hookmon for your Rhino Kabuterimon and your Ancient Beetlemon, so playing it at 4 just for ultimate consistency, and then of course being able to gain memory when you Digivolve on top of your Tamers is going to be broken, especially when you can stack them on top of each other, gain a bunch of memory, so Bokomon just goes crazy. Now getting on into the champions, we are playing the hybrid package, of course, for the Metal Kabuterimon. This card's super ridiculous. Digivolve this on top of a hybrid or your JP. You can go ahead and suspend something with 6k or less, which then you can swing over with Piercing with JP, or even better, if you can get up into your Rhino and then swing in with the Ancient Beetlemon to get the Trash and then the Piercing. This card is super, super good. One of the best cards in the list because it just is essentially a suspend that is also progressing you to your main win condition of Ancient Beetlemon, so very, very good here. Then we're going to be playing the 4 Beetlemon. Beetlemon maybe not particularly as strong as the Kabuterimon here, just because Kabuterimon can Digivolve for 1 on top of other level 4s, which means it's a little bit more versatile, as for this can only Digivolve for 2 on top of the Tamers and can't go on top of other level 4s to get the more search. But this card is just also really good because it is search. It's one of the few cards you're going to be able to search out one of your hybrids with, and so it's going to be relatively impactful to find your Rhino Kabuterimon, and you can also hit JPs off of this, and of course JP is kind of the key card to the list, so you're going to be playing 4 of these for sure, both because they're just very staple to the deck, and they're your main hybrids. But because I needed some more hybrids, I did put in 2 of the Arbormon here. I like Arbormon just because it's 2 to Digivolve, so you can Digivolve for 1 on top of JP, and it just helps you get a little bit of cycle, and mostly search. But the thing about Arbormon, you can really put this at any other hybrid if you want to play like Petaldragon or something, because you don't really need this to specifically be Arbormon. I just wanted to have a 10 hybrid count here, so that way 1/5 of my deck is champion hybrids, so there's a very high chance that I'm going to be able to hit them and hit them off of my searches, and I don't really have to worry about whiffing these at all. I was considering playing a 3rd Arbormon just for a little bit better ratios, but I don't think it's going to be that impactful. As long as you're playing the 4 here and the 4 here, the other hybrids that you play on the champion slot I don't think matter too much, but I chose Arbormon. It's just cheap, and you can just swing in and sack it off if you want to, or if you want, this is a really good target to play off of the Ancient Beetlemon on deletion, because you get to play level 4 hybrids. You can play this out, and then once you get this out for free, you can Digivolve the Kabuterimon on top of it for 1 to get extra cycle, and then suspend and whatnot, and so this card just works out really well. Like I said, I might consider putting 1 more in, but I think with this lineup, you're going to have very high consistency. Then getting on into the ultimates, we are, of course, going to have the Rhino Kabuterimon here. I mentioned this card multiple times already in the deck list. This card is just so good. This is kind of your main key piece. You want to be able to go into your champion, Digivolve into this for 1, swing, Digivolve into the Ancient Beetlemon, get the Piercing and the Trash the top. So this card is just super good. We want to be able to search this out as much as possible. Playing any less than this is just throwing, because you need this essentially to get up into your main combo. So not too much to say here, just playing the 4. And then we are also playing 2 Blossomon. I didn't want to just run the 4 ultimates here. I wanted a little bit more, so that way I could have a higher consistency of getting into it. You don't always have your Rhino Kabuterimon, and you don't always hit it, so having a couple extra ultimates makes it so you can at least get up into your megas, and even if you can't attack with the Ancient Beetlemon the same turn you play it out, at least you can still get to it by having the ultimate. And Blossomon's just really good by having the Digisorption 3. You can play this out, Digivolve essentially for free by suspending something else, which is very easy to do in this list because you can just suspend red hybrids. There were times where I would have one of my level 5 or higher greens out, and I had a champion out, and then I was able to hatch, Digivolve, tap Mimi to promote, and then I was able to suspend it to Digizorp into this, and then it just works really well. It kind of just cleans up the deck a little bit. Blossomon's not the strongest because sometimes suspending your Digimon is a little bit weak, but I think this is just kind of the best level 5 outside of the Rhino Kabuteri, just because you can Digivolve into it for free, which is just good enough to get up into your megas. So 2 Blossomon here. And then getting on into the megas, we are going to be having our boss monster here, Ancient Beetlemon. This card's just ridiculous. Going to be able to swing, survive, trash the top, pierce with JP. Super good. Not really much to say here. We are playing green hybrid, so we might as well play the best card in the green hybrid package. And then I am playing 2 of the level 6 Argomon. I think Ancient Troymon in this list is awful. It pretty much never really came into handy with its effect. It was very expensive to get into, and so I like the Argomon a little bit more because it's just really good with this list. When you pair Argomon with things like the Gaussmon, you can really slow down hybrid decks so much because, for example, Blue Hybrid, when you suspend their Tamers, a lot of the times the only way for them to get rid of it is to bounce it with something like Digivolving Koji and putting a Magna on top of it, and then Digivolving into Magna, so that way you can bounce the level 6, or playing Kakaitis Breath or stuff like that. And then with Yellow Hybrid, when you suspend all their Tamers, they're really only out to get rid of this is Wyvern's Breath or something like that, because they can't use Shine Greymon because their Tamers are suspended. So I just found this as a very good anti-meta stabilizer card. The deck is already so incredibly aggressive that just having a way to shut down some of the biggest decks in the format in the form of a 4 to Digivolve Mega that can Digizorp for 2 is just very good. It slows down the opponent's deck so much, so even if you don't have your Ancient Beetlemon, you need to slow down. You can just go up into Argomon. Argomon's going to slow down your opponent for 2, maybe 3 turns, and that's going to give you, most of the time, enough time to search out all the things you need, like your JPs and your hybrids, to get up into your Ancient Beetlemon. So I really love the Argomon. It's just so... It makes this deck feel anti-meta while also being meta, just because it's so aggressive while also having fantastic defensive cards that just synergize with the deck really well. So playing the 4 and the 2 here. Tamer time, we are going to be having the 4JP. Now, this is probably the most standard part of my Tamer lineup. You got to play the 4JP in this list because it's just super good. You're going to get your Piercing, which is kind of the main point of the list. And then, of course, you're going to be able to Digivolve into your hybrids for 1 less, with JP's effect reducing it by 1. And so, it's just a very good card and the glue to the deck. Then getting into Memory Tamers, I am playing 2 Ken and 1 Mimi. The reason I'm playing the Mimi is because Gaussmon and Guilmon are just so good getting out onto the board, because the Gaussmons buff each other up DP-wise, so they're very strong. And then the Guilmon, you want to be able to bring multiple out so you can swing, get that draw, and it just ups the aggression in the deck a little bit. This is already a highly aggressive deck, and by having Mimi, you can just add extra aggression by getting extra checks. The Mimi Suspend to promote has come up so many times, or just the ability to promote tap Mimi to hatch, and then you get to promote again next turn. It's happened so many times that it's really good. But when I was playing 3 Mimi, it felt very clunky because there's not very many times where you need to tap 2 Mimis to be able to hatch and then promote, which is something that you could do. But I found Ken to be way more helpful because it's a memory tamer that can gain you extra memory with your effect of being able to suspend after you battle your opponent's Digimon and survive, which is kind of what this deck is going to do anyway. You want to be battling and surviving with the Ancient Beetlemon, and so you get a extra memory gain off your memory tamer that can't be blocked by memory blockers because it is a tamer. And so I just found this card to be way more impactful. A lot of lists I saw were playing 3 Ken over the Mimi. I think this is mostly personal preference. I like the 2 Ken, the 1 Mimi. It's just a good split of extra value and extra aggression in the slots of your memory tamers. So I think this is just personal preference. You can play this however you want, but this is what I like. Now getting into the rest of the tamers, we do have a couple of one-of tamers. I have the Izzy and Mimi here. This card's mostly just for extra memory gain. I wanted to be able to get a bunch of extra memory from my tamers so that way I can extend my turns and make them a little bit more impactful. And so being able to gain 2 memory when your opponent's Digimon is suspended has been super consistent, because a lot of the times with this list there's so many tamers and options and low DP rookies that if your opponent attacks, a lot of times they will survive, meaning that you're going to gain the 2 extra memory. Plus you have the secondary effect of when attacking you can suspend this to be able to Digivolve up, which does help. I don't think I've actually used this effect at all because a lot of the times you just have the Mega in hand that you need. So that's just kind of something that's an extra, mostly here for the 2 memory gain, just so that way we can expend, because you go to 3 with your memory tamer, then you can go to 5. And with this deck, 5 memory is so much because you can get up into your... Essentially, you can Digivolve for 1 into this, and then you can Digivolve for 1 on top for your Rhino Kabuterimon, and then you can use the effect to swing, Digivolve into Ancient for 3, and then it'll still be your turn because that's just total 5 memory. And so it just makes your turns a lot better and a lot more consistent and a lot more impactful. So I like that as 1. And then I'm also playing the 1 Izzy. Another reason, it's just a cheap to play, which 1 is really big because there's not a lot of things here that we can play for 2, so it helps choke your opponent or just fill out memory turns a little bit better, but it's also just another memory gain card. When you Digivolve up into your Metal Kabuterimon on top of JP, or you play Thunder Laser to suspend your opponent's Digimon, you can tap this to gain a memory and make them effectively free, and that just extends your turns even longer, and that's what I'm all about. So I like these at 1 and 1. You could play these either or at 2 if you wanted to, but I tested out 2 of the Izzy, and I wasn't super happy with it. In fact, this is a card that could potentially get cut in the future. And then I tried 2 of the Izzy Mimi, but it's a card that is so easy to play around that when you get a couple out, your opponent can play around it a little bit more, and I found it not as good. So I just decided to play these at 2 because they are very different in how they play, especially with their play costs. So I just wanted that extra diversity between the 2. And then we are having the 1 starter deck, Tai Kamiya. This card is just so good in the mirror match. It's absolutely insane. I put this in here specifically for the mirror match because I know this deck is going to get very popular, and I want to make it so that way I have a better consistent answer to my opponent's Ancient Beetlemon outside of just having Atomic Inferno. So that way my Ancient Beetlemon ends up being 14k and there's this 13k, so I can get that Trash Pierce. But it just works for anything. You know, they have a Metal Kabuterimon out. You can suspend their Metal Kabuterimon. Your Metal Kabuterimon's now 7k, so they can swing over. It just works really well against most hybrid decks, but mostly the mirror match. And so this card is kind of like my tech that I've been using, but it's just been one of the better cards in the list. It's also another 2-drop. Like I said with the Izzy, there's not a lot of 2-drops in this list, and so being able to have a couple cards that cost 2 do really help you fill out your turns with memory. And I think the impact of having 1 extra KDP in this current metagame with all the hybrids is just way too big to kind of not really play. So this kind of seemed obvious to me when I was testing it, and then when I started to actually get more games into it, this card just really carried itself. So I would highly recommend you play 1, maybe 2 of these. Now, getting on into the options, we are going to be having 3 of the Thunder Laser. This card is super nutty. Being able to suspend for 1 and then swing over your opponent's Digimon with Piercing, and then Ancient Beetlemon if you have it trash the top. It's so good. For 1 memory, this is just really, really good. Some people are playing 2. I like 3 because I feel like the whole point of the deck is to be suspending your opponent's Digimon and swinging over them to get that extra aggression. And so I was playing this at 2, went up to 3 after not seeing it as much as I wanted to. Tested 4. It then became a little bit clunky, but with 3, I found times where you have way less 2 of them in your hand than when you're playing 4, and you don't really need ever 2 of them in your hand. You just need to make sure you have that 1, and I found 3 to be a consistent enough answer to be able to have that 1 in your hand when you need it. So I like 3 here. This card is just really, really good. Then we're playing 3 of the Atomic Inferno. I like this at 3 for pretty much the same reason I liked this at 3, because at 4 it felt a little bit too clunky. Yeah, you can stack these up on top and be able to go for very aggressive turns, but a lot of the times with this list you want to be able to like make things on the board and not just spend all your memory going for security checks. This feels much more like a win more card and not so much as like a comeback card. So as much as this card is really, really good, like I said earlier, I think the red package is mostly for the Gaussmon, and the Atomic Inferno is just the cherry on the top. It's going to give you extra aggression. It's going to give you a little bit more options, but I don't really think you need to play 4 because unless it's coming out of security, it's not that crazy of a card. It's kind of just like how Lightning Joust is. And Lightning Joust was a good card, but it was never game breaking, and this is very much similar. So unless it comes out of security, it's not going to be super game breaking, and even if you played at 4, you're still going to have generally the same percentage of having it in your security, and it's not something that's in your control anyway. So even if you play 4 and none of them in your security, then it's not going to help you that much. So I just like it at 3. And then to finish it off, we are playing 1 HPD. I really like HPD here, and I'll go ahead and explain why really quick. So I really like HPD in this list because I put the Blossomons and the Argomons in here. So with the Rhino Kabuterimon, obviously, you can go ahead and swing and get the effect into Ancient Beetlemon for 3, and that works. But when you take up other combinations, HPD comes in. So if you have Blossomon out and you don't have Rhino Kabuteri, you can HPD, Digivolve into Ancient. You still got your Ancient. If you have Rhino Kabuterimon out and you want to HPD into your Argomon, you can HPD into your Argomon. Or if you just generally, like, let's say you have Rhino out and you want to be able to use the extra memory on your turn to be able to do other things, play more Digimon or whatever, play more Tamers, then you can even HPD this onto here, just so that way instead of spending the 3 on the attack to Digivolve, you can just Digivolve for free, and then use other things to get value and just board presence and whatnot. So I really like HPD. It just kind of fills out the list a little bit because of the Ultimate and Mega lineup. Just makes it a little bit more consistent and a lot easier to get whatever you need out. Another card that I was interested in testing out was going to be the Ancient Evolution. This card is fairly good, and I might consider playing this again just because if you do miss your Rhino Kabuterimon stage, and you can't get into your Ancient Beetlemon or just any of your ultimates, this card's going to let you get up into it just from your champion, and I have found playing more that this card is something that definitely could be very viable in this list. I'm definitely going to be testing this out for sure, potentially in the spot of one of the Blossomons, just as a way to warp up into the Ancient, but I think this is a card that you can just test. I don't know if it's necessarily needed, but this is a card that I will test that's kind of similar to HPD. So now that was the main deck, but let's go ahead and get on into the side deck that I used for the event. Starting off, I did have 3 Terriermon. This was mostly my blue hybrid type tech. Whenever I went into that, I wanted to make sure that I was having this so that I could stop things like the Howling Memory Boosts or Ice Wall Insecurity or Hammer Spark and stuff like that. There's just blue has a lot of ways to gain memory, so I found this as a nice little cheap tech to play. Kind of makes sense in this list. You still have the red eggs, but you can play this out, and if it ends up you get a couple of them out, or it ends up not being that useful, you can just Digivolve a hybrid on top of it, no big deal. So this was a very easy card to put into it. No need to put it at 4. There's just a lot of cards. I like the ratio of 3 for a lot of cards more than 4, unless they're very crucial to the deck, which Terriermon definitely is not. It's not crucial to the matchup. It's just a good tech, and so it's one of those cards where I want to see it, but I don't want to see a bunch of them, so I just like it at 3. Then we're going to be having just some general anti-aggro cards with the 4 Atomic and the 1 Mechanori. I did side in Atomic a couple times, but I only sided in 3, and I never really found a point to siding in the Mechanorimon. I just had it there as a kind of general good side deck card, but it doesn't really make sense to play in practice, and so what I found is that you could cut these for sure. I don't think you need more than 4 of these, because the one time I did side deck 4 Atomic Blasters in, I opened 3 of them in my first, I think, 7 or 8 cards, and I just, again, 3 a lot of the times for tech cards is going to be much better, because you don't want to clog them in your hand. You just want to see it for when you need it. So I think you can cut these out for just about anything, but the Atomic Blaster is just generally a good card versus aggro decks or decks that play a lot of rookies. If your opponent has a lot of cards that are annoying to you, such as Gaussmon or Siakomon and stuff like that, you can just blow up the whole board, and it works really well. But these 2 I think you could just cut for whatever else you need, because they seemed relatively dead. Then we have another starter deck tie in here. This was my mirror match tech. I am already main decking one, but I wanted to have a second one just for higher consistency of hitting it. So I put this in here. It really feels very good in the mirror match, and I knew I was going to be playing it a bunch. I did play it multiple times, and I sided this card in pretty much every single time. I even sided it in versus blue as well, because they were playing the Ancient Garurumon package, and so their 13k is now invalidated by my 14k, and if you get 2 of them out, they're 15k. And so it just has higher consistency. This card is really good in the deck, and it was a pretty easy card to put in the side. Then we are playing a 3rd Argomon here. This is mainly for yellow hybrid, if I played against it, just because I can have a higher consistency of getting this out. And if they do get rid of it with like Wyvern's Breath or something, I have a higher chance of getting another one out. And so I just wanted to try to make sure I had techs for the mirror match, yellow hybrid, and blue hybrid, and those are kind of the ones that I chose. And so this is the side deck that I ended up on. You could definitely change a lot about it, like I said. It's not the most optimized side deck, but it does work well for the decks that I did mention. Of course, I would change both of these. I don't know exactly what I would change them to yet, but other than that, these 8 were very good in the side deck. I would start with your side deck with this for sure, because it's just really good in the current metagame, and these cards are generally easy to swap out from the main deck and put them in, so side decking isn't that hard of a decision to make. So with that being said, this is the side deck as well as the main deck for the current red-green hybrid list that I am playing. So if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, because I'll be bringing you even more matches and deck lists. I hope you have a great day. Peace out.